Joining us now, one of the two state representatives who was expelled last night, and that is Justin Jones. Justin, good morning to you. I really appreciate you joining us. I know you haven't had any sleep, and I have to commend you right off on the way that you have conducted yourself, you and your colleagues. It has been notable, and so thank you for joining us. This has captured the attention of the country. Your message to the nation this morning after having been expelled. How are you feeling?
Sorry, thank you so much for having me this morning, Don. Sorry, I'm operating on very little sleep.
No need to apologize at all.
What happened yesterday was a very sad day for democracy, not just in Tennessee, but in this nation. And so I think that there's a lot of thoughts going through my head. The House Republicans chairman who you just saw in this video is still doubling down, even though he is the same Republican chairman who engaged in inappropriate behavior and is still in leadership, as you can see, and was not expelled. But, you know, we have been expelled for standing with our constituents, but I have no regrets. I will continue to speak up for District 52 and for Tennesseans who are demanding change.
Let's talk a little bit more about your colleague. You're talking about Jeremy Faison. He's a Republican caucus chair in the State House. Last night, he did an interview with my colleague, Caitlin Collins, and he said he was wondering why you haven't apologized. Let's listen, and then we'll get your response.
I'd like to add to y'all, they've not backed down from that either. You know, I told them earlier today, I feel like if they would have said, you know what, we messed up. I mean, what American, what human won't bring forgiveness and redemption, but they've doubled down and went so far as to stand in the well today and said, I'd do it again.
I mean, you haven't apologized? What is your response to that?
I mean, I think Representative Faison needs to reflect on his own actions as a representative. Earlier this year, last year, Representative Faison pulled down the pants of a referee because he got mad at a basketball game. And he's still in Republican leadership, not expelled, not sanctioned in any way. And so for him to tell us to apologize for standing up for our constituents, I told the speaker and I told that body yesterday that I would apologize when they apologize to the families in Covenant and in the mass shootings across this nation, particularly in our state, at Covenant and Antioch, in the Waffle House mass shooting, for these reckless gun laws that they passed that allowed people to lose their loved ones. Apologize to the families of the victims of these mass shootings, and we will apologize for our actions.
I think I know the answer to this, but I have to ask you anyway, just for the record. So you could be reelected. Do you want to serve again, Justin?
I mean, definitely. I think what happened was a travesty of democracy because they expelled the two youngest black lawmakers, which is no coincidence, from the Tennessee legislature because we are outspoken, because we fight for our district. And I would, want to continue to do that, and whether I'm inside the chamber or outside the chamber. Because what we saw in Tennessee yesterday was an attack on democracy and a very overt racism. As you can see, that the two youngest black lawmakers were kicked out, but our colleague, my dear sister Gloria Johnson, a white woman, was not. And we see clearly, the nation has seen clearly what is going on in Tennessee.
Yeah, listen, to say there's a double standard, some people may sort of speculate about it, but I think it is obvious considering that the two black members who were men, right, were expelled, but the white woman was not. What do you want to say to that? Speak more, please.
I want to say that this is what we've been challenging all session, was a very toxic, racist work environment where we are not even allowed to speak. That's why we went to the well, because the speaker wouldn't call on us. He cut off our microphones. He ruled us out of order anytime we brought up the issue of gun violence. When I went outside to support the protesters, he turned off my voting machine so I couldn't even cast a vote on the House floor. I mean, this is what we've dealt with all session. And yesterday, the nation was able to see that we don't have democracy in Tennessee, particularly when it comes to black and brown communities. And so, what we saw yesterday was an attack on this future of a multiracial democracy. But we are the state where the birthplace of the Klan. We're a state where we had a KKK statue in our capital until very recently, and we protested to have that removed. But what they're trying to do is to bring us back to days that we don't want to go to. If I didn't know this happened to me, I would think that this was 1963 instead of 2023.
If the Nashville City Council next week wants to appoint you as an interim representative to your district, you would do it?
Most definitely.
Yes. Let's talk about the issue. Well, let me ask you why, considering everything that has happened right now, why even go through all the rigmarole?
Because it's important to let them know that democracy we will fight for democracy. We will fight for a multiracial democracy. And so this extreme tactic to expel us and to try and humiliate us has only put a spotlight of the world on Tennessee. And so I will go back because fighting for the future, I'm 27 years old, fighting for the future that I want to live in, that I want my children to live in, it's worth whatever sacrifice that we have to give, whether it's being expelled, whether it's being in a hostile environment, because I want to create a community that our young people cannot just survive, but they can thrive and flourish. And that's what we were asking. The most very basic thing was to ban assault weapons so we can stop these mass shootings. Instead, they responded by assaulting democracy. And that is shameful and it's very scary.
Do you think you can work with them? There's so much opposition there.
I mean, we are the voice of the opposition party. Our role, in our party, there was only 24 members. Now there's 22, 75 Republicans. Our role was to be a speed bump, to try and stop them from driving this train off the cliff so that we no longer have democracy. I mean, our job was to be a voice of moral dissent. Our job was to be a voice of check on power. That was what we did, and that's what we did every day we were in the body, which is why they expelled us. Because in every committee I was on, I stood up and spoke out on the House floor. We're some of the most outspoken members, and they retaliated not because of that one incident of us going to the well and joining those young people protesting gun violence, but because they got tired and did not feel like young black men have a right to be at the same dais as them. They felt like young black men don't have the right to sit in the chamber with them. They don't see us as equal. The House Speaker Cameron Sexton has trafficked in the rhetoric of racism. He's trafficked in the rhetoric of racialized narratives. And so we know what we're facing, but it's worth whatever sacrifice we have to make because the future we want to live in is what we're working for.
One last thing. In an odd way, this has given you a much bigger platform. Right? The White House is weighing in, the current and the former White House, current and former presidents both weighing in on this. How do you tend to use that newly garnered platform, elevated platform that you have?
I mean, what our protest was about when we went to the well to stand with these young people was to elevate their voices. And so with this platform, we hope to continue to lift up the issues that a week after mass shooting, I represented a part of Nashville. And our community is still grieving. Our community is in trauma. These young people are begging us to say, we want to live in schools. We must continue to lift up the issues. And like I told my colleagues who expelled me, no matter if they vote to expel me or not, what I did was for their children and grandchildren too. We want their children and grandchildren to be safe from mass shootings. We want them to live lives where they can flourish and be children and not have to do active shooter drills or live in schools that look like militarized zones. And so we'll continue to lift up the issue, and we'll continue to speak truth to power. And I'll be back at the Capitol on Monday on the outside with those protesting, demanding action from my former colleagues.
Justin Jones, we appreciate you joining us. Our regards, best to you, best of everything to you and your colleagues. Thank you so much.
Thank you.